Hello everyone. Oh my god, it feels so weird to be doing a sit down video. I feel like I haven't filmed a sit down video in months, and that's because I haven't. I'm currently here, joined with you today, sitting on my floor because I feel like that's where I'm most comfortable. I made some tea. I didn't have any milk though, so you can't judge the color of my tea because I was trying my best, okay? I had to work with what I had, which was nothing. But as you can probably tell by the title of this video and by the books behind me, we're doing a book video today. Back to my roots, who's excited? I've been wanting to film this video since the beginning of June, but my camera broke. If you've been watching the vlogs, you know I've been having a whole struggle. My camera never came. I had to order a second one. I still haven't gotten reimbursed or even contacted about the first one that never came. Anyway though, I have a camera now, so we're filming a sit down video. Let me pull up my Goodreads because we're gonna be going through every single book I've read so far this year. If you guys remember back in January, if you watched Vlogmas, I talked about my New Year's resolutions, and one of those resolutions was to slow down and read for fun. Read when I wanna read what I wanna read, explore new genres that make me happy, and don't read in a way that feels like I have to, or like that I have to make videos, or that will stress me out. Like I wanted to go back to my roots of like loving reading and using it as like an escape and like fun. That's what I've been doing this year. So there is only like 20 something books only. That's a lot, okay? I've read 20 something books. I've also been in my social era. It has been a lot harder than it was when I didn't see anyone and I read over 100 books a year, which is not gonna happen this year, and that's okay. It's fine. Anyway, I'm gonna go through like what I rated everything, talk about a little bit about every book and what I thought about it, synopsis, if I recommend it. I think I also wanna do a TBR version of this video, so if you wanna see that, do let me know and I'll do a what I wanna read for the rest of the year video because I have a very distinct or like selected TBR already. So if you wanna see that video, then just let me know and I'll make that right after this. Let's get into the books I read. I'm gonna go in order of January till now. First book I read, because it was winter, I read With Love from Cold World by Alicia Thompson. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't remember what this book is about. I'm pretty sure, what did I rate it? If I remember properly, I didn't like it. Yeah, I gave it 2 stars, which means it's not for me. I don't really remember exactly what it's about, who it's about, what they did. I know it's a workplace romance. They work at like this Christmas themed amusement park. It was just not my vibe, okay? I don't know. I remember the guy had blue hair, so I just like simply could not picture him being attractive for me personally. And I was like, not into it. I did finish it and give it 2 stars, but that one's kind of irrelevant for now, so we're just gonna put it over there. But really what I was most excited for in January is I saved one of my most anticipated books of last year to read as my first book of the new year, but I didn't end up finishing that one in December, so that was my first book of the new year. But I read Iron Flame, which is the second book of Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing was my favorite book of last year, so I wanted to save this one to read in the new year's, like to kick off my new era, which we'll get into. I wanted this year to be my year of fantasy. I really wanted to get into books that made me feel more. Like last year I really struggled with reading books that all felt very similar because I was reading so many contemporary romances with the same tropes back to back to back, which are fun, but I was starting to not love it. So I wanted to expand my genre. So I did save Iron Flame to read in this year. Oh, I also have my Fourth Wing bookmark in here. I feel like a lot of people were hating on this book, especially like someone who loves and like prioritizes romance in books. I was so pleasantly surprised with this. I gave it 4.75 or maybe even 5 stars. Yeah, I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. I feel like I didn't love it as much as Fourth Wing, so I'm gonna say like 4.75, but I still love this universe. I love this story so much. It's so easy to read, and I know maybe that's why people don't like it, because they like, I was gonna say pretentious, but not pretentious. I don't think that's the right word. They like complex books. I like simple books. I like books that make me feel like I'm watching a movie. I don't want to have to do much thinking. I felt like there was a lot of world building in this and like things I had to keep track of, but it was still simple. It's a complex fantasy world with like completely different creatures and countries and powers and all that stuff, but I still was able to follow along, and I just love these characters so much. I love the universe, I love the storyline, and I can't wait to see where the next book goes, which comes out in January of next year. I've already had it pre-ordered since the day it was announced, but with the way that this one ended on such a cliffhanger plot twist, I'm so excited for the rest of the series. I think it's gonna be 5 books long, she said. But yeah, I definitely think that Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, like the rest of the series, will be a series that I look back on with fondness for literally the rest of my life. Like I think I'll reread this when I'm 100 years old. It's just like so nostalgic. It's also the first fantasy, like Fourth Wing was the first fantasy I ever read, so it holds a special place in my heart. The next book I read, because I had such a book hangover after reading Iron Flame, everyone told me to read Powerless. So I did just that. This is by Lauren Roberts, and this has been my favorite book of the year so far. I get 5 stars. It's an even easier fantasy to understand than Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. It is so simple and so basic, but sometimes less is more, and I really felt like this was just a romance book to me with like minimal fantasy elements and just a cool universe. There are powers, there is like a monarchy system, like a king and a prince, and I just love this trope. The romance was so good, and it wasn't even I was about to spoil it, but like it is so slow burn that like you're like, is this even a romance? But it is, because there's like the who did this to you trope and like saving each other and taking care of each other. And sorry if you can hear the thunder, it's starting to rain, which is kind of a vibe for right now. But something about the setting of this book and just like being in high stakes situations with a love interest, realizing you're falling for them when you're like about to die, something about that's gonna do it for me every time, because Fourth Wing had that too. But this truly feels like anyone could read it, anyone could enjoy it. If you're a contemporary romance reader and you've been wanting to get into fantasy, this is so easy. To me, it's barely fantasy. This, to me, is what I thought Shatter Me was gonna be. Don't hate me for saying that, but I feel like it is similar to Shatter Me in a lot of ways, but this is like everything I wanted Shatter Me to be romance-wise. So I'm very excited to read Reckless, which I have on my shelf right now, which I'm gonna read probably next, because it's the second book. Oh my gosh, the thunder. It's the second book that just came out. Especially with the way this one ended again on a cliffhanger, I'm so excited about the next book. So you'll probably hear me talk about that very soon. Basically in this universe, there's like people that have powers and then people that don't. The people that don't have powers are kind of, how do I put this lightly? Murdered, killed, executed by the people that do have powers because they think they're like cursed or something. So the whole society is run by these people, but everyone has a different gift, a different power. The main girl is actually an ordinary. She does not have powers, but she's been faking the fact that she's had powers her entire life, and people believe her. She somehow gets put in this like Hunger Games scenario where she has to like prove her powers in like an arena fighting against other kids that also have powers. The main male love interest is also in these games, and he's actually the prince, the enforcer. His dad is the king, the one who's enforcing these rules to kill the ordinaries. Obviously are falling in love, and I love it so much. I can't wait for the next book. Something about forbidden romance, kind of enemies to lovers, but also like he's intrigued by her right away. I love dual point of view, and I just ate up this book, and I immediately made all my friends read it. And you know I love a book when I immediately force it down all my friends' throats. So still in my fantasy era, but I was recommended to read Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. I read both of these with no idea what to expect going into it. What did I rate them? Oh, I didn't rate them. I think I just didn't know what I wanted to rate them. So let's talk about it now. I feel like these books were so, how do I describe, romantic and beautifully written, and not what I would read if I was wanting to read a romantasy. Does that make sense? Like, they were romantic in like a beautiful poetic way, but not in the way where there was like yearning and tropes and all that fun stuff. It was more like, whoa, this is like a really beautiful story. But I don't know if it was exactly for me. I think I'd give this one maybe 3.75, 2.75. I like the concept of it. Basically, these two characters have magical typewriters that they can communicate with each other. Letters will appear at the other one's house, whatever, but they also work in the same place, and they're enemies in real life, but then they're writing these letters to each other, but they don't know it's each other, and they're falling in love through these letters. And then a war breaks out, and it's kind of has like the mythological aspect with like the gods. Like, there's a war between gods going on. They're soldiers and all this stuff, and they're both the journalist of this war, and they're falling in love during this war. And then this book is a lot more about the war. Like, this was before it happened, and then this is during while it happened, which why this one, I was a little bit bored with this one. I started listening to the audiobook because I was like, okay, I'm just kind of here to watch them fall in love. I'm not really here to talk about the war aspect of it all, but I guess this one is like, but I do really like them. That's the thing, I feel like I'm rating them low, but also at the same time, like, something about them is like so special to me, and I'm never gonna forget reading them and like how it made me feel, but also they weren't my favorite. And I know a lot of people worship these books, like love them so much, and I can totally see why. Like, I feel like a certain type of person would way rather read these, because these are like technically better written and like better books literature wise, and then to me, I'm like, this is gonna do it for me every time. The more like Wattpad-esque story. Please tell me you know what I mean, because like in my heart I know that these are like better, but enjoyment wise I definitely enjoyed the other ones better. But after doing all those fantasy books back to back to back, I was like, whoa, like my brain needs a little bit of a reset, a little bit of a break. I'm starting to feel a little bit burnt out, especially after those two books. So I decided to go reread an old favorite, The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. I read this book back in maybe 2020, and I haven't reread it since. It is a thick book. Did I read it in 2 days? Yes, I missed it so much. I love Mariana Zapata's writing style. I think that's what I missed. It's just the slowest burn, like the fact that they don't touch hands until maybe this far in is gonna do it for me every time. I was telling Kylie's sister about these books because she doesn't like slow burn. She would rather them like just get together, and I'm so the opposite. And I was like, you would hate these books because they literally make eye contact maybe this far into the book, maybe have a conversation of depth this far in, touch hands this far in, and kiss this far in, and then love confession that far in. And you know what? It's perfect and amazing. I did reread this and give it a 4 instead of a 5. I think last time I read it, I gave it a 5, but sometimes I was like, okay, like wrap it up. I don't think this is my favorite by her anymore. I think my favorite by her is Wait For It. I need to reread it though, so that I can compare them, because rereading this, I was like, I don't know, like I feel like I might like Wait For It more. I love a good reread. I think that's been my only reread of the year so far, so I loved having that as a palette cleanser though. The thunder is really setting an ambiance right now, and it's gonna keep getting darker and darker as this video goes on because it's starting to pour rain. Then I went right back into my fantasy era and I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I absolutely loved this book. I was reading it and I was like, this is so good. It's so similar to Powerless and like the Hunger Games vibe, where there's like the trials and games and she's a contestant in it, but this one has vampires, which I'd never read anything like that before, and it was such a cool concept and I really liked it, and I liked the romance a lot, and I wanted there to be even more romance, and there was as it went on, and that's why I was so excited for the second book. In between, I think there was a novella, so I read this, then I read Six Scorched Roses. I don't have a physical copy of that. Six Scorched Roses was about a different couple, but I also really enjoyed their story. Wait, what did I rate this one? Okay, I rated this one a 4.25, but that's because there was a plot twist again that pissed me off. There's a kind of a betrayal trope, which I never saw coming, and I was so excited about the romance that kind of just threw me off, because I was like, wait, now where are they gonna go from here? And then Six Scorched Roses I gave 4, just because it was short, like quick book about a different couple, but I liked how it was gonna tie in. And then I started reading the third one, Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I got like 100 pages into that and I DNF'd, but I'm gonna go back to it. I swear I'm gonna go back to it probably soon when I'm back in my fantasy era after reading Reckless. I felt myself getting in a slump. So I started it. I was reading it on my phone because the physical copy, I actually just got the physical copy. It's out now, but it wasn't out at the time. I don't know why, it was only on Kindle Unlimited. I think it was getting republished. The romance is kind of starting over, and I hated the way that the man, like the guy, the male love interest, was acting in the beginning. Like, I was like, this is not my friend. I don't know this guy. Why is he acting the way that he's acting? Like, I don't want to give away the trope and like what happened. So I just need to go back to it, but I was just thrown off and I felt myself getting put in a slump, and I did not want to get put in another reading slump. So I stopped reading it, but I promise I'll go back to it and I'll update on it when I do. But I loved this one, so I really, really do want to love the rest of the series, so I need to give it another chance. Then Stay With Me by Brooke Montgomery came out. If you remember, I read Come With Me, I think in vlogs last year. It might have been during Vlogmas 2, which that one was ex-boyfriend's dad trope. And it's cowboy romances, which are my absolute favorite, and they take place on a family ranch, which are my absolute favorite. You know how much I love Chestnut Springs. So this is kind of giving that. This was accidental pregnancy, but not with the main love interest. Let me give some backstory, because I do think this book was good. What did I rate it? 3.5. Basically, this book was childhood friends. So she is best friends with this girl. They grew up together, and then she's always had a crush on her older brother. They've known each other their entire lives. She's always had a crush on him though, and she's like not been very shy about the fact that she's had a crush on him, but he's never given her the time of day. So you think. But then she ends up in this relationship back and forth for like years, like her high school boyfriend, on and off, together in college, after college. Like, never was it a healthy relationship. It was actually, he was awful in like every way. And you watch her like kind of going through this, you get like flashbacks of this like toxic relationship, and she actually gets pregnant with the toxic relationship guy's baby, but she has to break it off with him. Like, she's like, okay, this is my last straw. Like, they go through something and she's like, I have to end my relationship. You see the best friend's brother start to get protective of her and like starting to fall for her, even though he always has, but like we didn't know that. Their relationship starts during her pregnancy, which I never read anything like that before, but this book was actually good. Like, I really enjoyed myself. I think I just like this universe a lot. There were some things I just didn't love about it, but if you like a small town cowboy romance, I really recommend this series. There's another book coming out soon, and there's a novella. So yeah, it was fun, easy, quick, doesn't require much thought, mindless, fun read. I love those. Okay, back into fantasy, except this one's a little bit different because I read Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I have the special edition. Isn't she beautiful? beautiful. Thanks, Owl Crate. I love this book. I will accept no criticism on, okay, maybe I would, but like, I'm not gonna criticize it because I had the time of my life reading it. I didn't want it to end. I think I gave it 4.5 stars, 4 stars. This is a vampire werewolf romance. Never read anything like that before either. I was like, okay, Twilight, she's a vampire, he's a werewolf, sworn enemies. It was given kind of mafia vibes in like an alternate reality, like they were like enemy, rival, I don't know what they are. Her dad is kind of the leader of the vampire universe, and then he's the alpha of the werewolves. It's arranged marriage between the two of them. She has to move in with him, and then it's their romance from there, but they're so different. But it was so fun. Like, I just feel like discovering fantasy this year was so fun for me. Like, getting all the feels and like everything I love about romance while also getting to like experience a whole new reality of like something that just doesn't exist, that I can use my imagination and have so much fun. I've loved it so much, and this is making me realize I need to get back into my fantasy era, because I'm pretty sure this is the last fantasy of the year that I've read and all the rest are romances. So we're gonna have to get back into it, which we are, because I'm reading Reckless next. But I loved this one. I know everyone did. I heard everyone talking about it back at the time that it came out, as they should be. Then Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage came out, another small town cowboy romance. I think I gave it 3 stars. It didn't like hit that hard for me. It's just really short and easy though. I love Done and Dusted, the first one, and I'm so excited for the next book because the next one is Enemies to Lovers, Best Friend's Brother. I've been looking forward to the couple in the 3rd book since the first one came out, so I'm very excited about it. But this one kind of just felt like a filler book to me. Like, I wasn't that excited about this one. I wasn't like that excited about this couple. A new girl was introduced. She's from the city, and then the boy, he's the brother of the girl from the first book. It's about all the family that live on a ranch. Again, the best trope. He is like building a kind of like hotel in bed and breakfast vibe. He hires her to come in and like help them renovate because she's a interior decorator, designer, or something like that. But what they don't know is they've hooked up before they knew they were working together. They had a one-night stand, and then she gets into town to like work on this project, and she's like, oh my god, it's you, the guy that I hooked up with that one time in a bar. It's kind of like instant attraction. He's obsessed with her the entire time right off the bat, which I didn't love. It was kind of instant love, besides like she was the one that was like not really into it, and then like she was making him work for it. So if you like groveling and working for it, you might like this. Super easy and quick, but I do recommend this series as a whole, but this one just wasn't my favorite. Okay, this is, wait, did I read that one in a vlog or did I start the vlog here? I don't remember. I did a reading vlog of getting out of a reading slump, and I read all of these books, so I'm not gonna go too into depth in that because I did a full breakdown of all of these books in there. Wild Love by Elsie Silver, I got the arc and I read that. It was so good. I gave this one 4.5, but this is a spin-off of Chestnut Springs, my favorite series. All of the books in this series are gonna be single dad trope. Single dad cowboy romances set in a small town on a ranch. She actually wrote these for me. She actually wrote them just for me to read. You're welcome, everyone, because she did it for me. I loved this book so much. I was giggling and kicking my feet. It's Best Friend's Brother. Again, single dad. Again, it's gonna do it for me every time. I could not recommend Elsie Silver's books enough. If you want to read this as a standalone, you completely could. The other characters are like barely mentioned, but why not read Chestnut Springs too? Okay, now it's starting to like really lightning right outside my window. Like, what if I lose power? The sky's completely gray. I do love a good storm though, when I just get to sit at home, talk about books and drink tea. Like, this is actually the best day of my life. It doesn't get better than this. Next book I read also in that vlog was Forever Never by Lucy Score, which when I started this book, I thought it was gonna be 5 stars. I thought it was so good. Small town romance, childhood best friends to lovers. But then it was so long, and not in the good way where it was like a slow burn. It just dragged on and on, back and forth. Why are we not together? Like, they could have easily been together, and instead they were like being dumb as hell and like took this entire book to finally figure their stuff out. Basically, this girl, she used to be like the happiest, cutest, like everyone loved her. She was so happy and giggly and smiley. And then she moved to the city. They're from like a small island off of Michigan. Anyway, she comes back to the island one day and she has a broken arm, and she's completely like a different person, like like sad, depressed, like not depressed, but like sad, quiet, scared. Her childhood best friend is like, I need to figure out what is wrong with her and what happened to her. He's always been in love with her. Again, there's a little bit of an age gap between them though, so he like doesn't want to do anything about it, but he's so protective of her, which this is why I thought this was going to be a great book, because all of that seemed great, but then they were being dumb for the entire book, back and forth, never together, then together, and then hooking up, and then not together, and then arguing about nothing. And it took forever to just get to the plot of the book and like figure out what actually happened to her, and for them to just get together. So I rated it 3 stars. I think it just could have been cut in half. Like, I think if this was half the size of it was, and they cut out all the unnecessary nonsense, I think I would have given it 5 stars. But instead, It was a 3. Then I did a reread because I was trying to get out of a slump, and I read The Risk by Elle Kennedy. This is my favorite book in Briar U. It's Brenna and Jake's book. I gave it 4 stars. I think back when I first read it when I was like 17 or 18, I gave it 5. I think nowadays it's like lower, but it's still high because nostalgia purposes. Rival Team's Coach's Daughter, a hockey romance. This is one of those ones that's just like so easy to read, and definitely Wattpad story vibes. Just something if you need like a filler book, which is exactly what I needed at the time. So I'm so glad I reread that. It reminded me of being young. Then my most anticipated book of the year came out, Taming 7 by Chloe Walsh. I had such high expectations. You guys know the Boys of Tommen series, Binding 13, Keeping 13, Saving 6, and Redeeming 6. Those 4 books are probably my top 4 books of all time. It's like Addicted series and Boys of Tommen right there up with each other. Changed the trajectory of my life, and I will never be the same after reading them. I think they're perfect. I love everything about them, and I was so excited for Claire and Gibbs's book, Childhood Best Friends. We've been hinted at them being together since book 1, and we got their book finally. It just didn't live up to the hype. I still gave it, what did I give it? 4 stars because it's my favorite universe, my favorite people ever, and I just like feel like they're my family, and I could never rate any of the books lower than a 4 stars, to be honest. But this book just, something about, I think what it was for me is it was less focused on the romance and the 2 main characters, and there was a lot of talk about Lizzie, who's like one of the other girls in the friend group, who's kind of the antagonist of this book, and her book is probably going to be next, I think. So there was just so much talk about her, and she was so evil in this book that I just like couldn't enjoy myself because I was just like, I just don't want to read about her. Like I want to read about the 2 of them. Like I felt like Gibbsy had a lot of trauma and a lot of depth, and I liked the way that they handled that in this book. I didn't like the way Claire really handled it, and I don't like that Claire felt like such a one-dimensional character. Like they didn't really give her a backstory or anything to her besides the fact that she was in love with Gibbsy. I also just didn't love, I don't know, there was a lot about this book that just like didn't sit right with me, but I love the characters so dearly that it's still a 4 stars, and I did enjoy reading it, and it was super emotional and deep, and definitely look up the trigger warnings if you ever want to pick up this series. It just didn't live up to what I wanted it to be. If you guys watch that reading blog, I fully talked about it in there, but then I read a 5-star book, so it's okay. I read Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I've loved every book by her I've read, which I think I've read all of her books now, but this one is definitely my favorite. I thought Yours Truly would be my favorite, but this one, I think it beat it out. This is also in a companion novel series with Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and then this book, but they can all be read as standalones, but I recommend reading them all because this book actually tied those 2 books to this one, like in a way I was not expecting. Like the characters are actually really linked. This book is just the epitome of my love language, acts of service in every single way imaginable. I annotated the shit out of this book, and I also forced all my friends to start reading it. One of my friends is reading it right now, and she's updating me, and I'm just like, I just wish I could live through you and read it again. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did, just because the trope, like, I didn't know how I felt about the idea of like, I'm pretty sure they meet online, and then they like talk on the phone, and they kind of get to know each other that way, and then he's like, you should come stay with me, and then she does, and like she ends up like moving to his town, whatever. It doesn't sound good when I'm saying it, but the guy in this book ends up getting custody of all of his younger siblings. There's a lot of hardship with that. There's a lot of talk about like family. There's just so much of a deeper message in this book than just a romance, and that's what I love so much in a contemporary romance, is having like an underlying plot of friendship, family, trauma, and life lessons. Like that is just so essential to my reading experience, and that this book had it so well. And just talking about her trauma and the way that, like, if you know the song The Bolter by Taylor Swift, that is the definition of this girl, like running away and self-sabotaging whenever anything feels too good because of her past. I loved it so much. I want to reread it. If you're an acts of service girl, you'll fall in love with this man. Then my next anticipated book of the year was Funny Story by Emily Henry, and it completely blew my expectations. I think this is my favorite Emily Henry book, which I was not expecting. It might be tied for #1 with Beach Read, but Funny Story, oh my god, I feel like we just like brushed over this. Like we need to be talking about it more. Like it was so good, and it's becoming a movie, and I'm so excited about it. But the romance in this was everything to me. The girl in this book, Daphne, was one of the most relatable female main characters I've ever read about in my life. I felt like I was literally reading my inner thoughts when I was reading her monologue, and like I've never felt really that way about a book character before. This was our book club book over on Patreon last month, so if you want to see me read this entire book, I did chapter by chapter updates videos on there. It's linked down below in all my videos. If you want to join the book club, it's linked down below. But I did chapter by chapter updates and then a final thoughts video fully on there, so I'm not going to fully get into it because you already heard it, but I did give it 5 stars. 2 5-star books back to back. Who would have ever thought? Emily Henry, the woman that you are. Next book, I read the new Carly Fortune book, This Summer Will Be Different. I had like no expectations going into this book because I loved Every Summer After, and then the second book, Meet Me at the Lake, hated that one. So this one I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel. And then I think I would give this one 4 stars. Like it was good. I loved the setting. I loved everything about it. I liked the past present kind of perspective. I really enjoyed it. It didn't like change the course of my life or anything, but I thought it was fun. I thought it was cute. I really love the romance. It's best friend's brother again, but they kind of keep it a secret. It spans over a years long timeline of past and present perspective, them being together, not being together, kind of like missing each other. And it's set on an island and at a beach house. So if you want a good summer romance before summer's over, read that. Okay, then a complete change of pace. I was feeling like I just wanted to get in my dark romance era. I don't know, I wanted to like branch out. I felt like I read a bunch of like happy, fun, contemporary romances in a row. And I was like, I'm feeling like I want to get into some dark vibes. Larry Reads on YouTube, when she was at my apartment, she told me that I have to read this book, God of Fury by Rena Kent. And she told me it was like dark, but not to the point where I was gonna be like disturbed, because she knows I'm kind of like, too soft for all of it. So she told me to give this one a try. It's part of a series. So when I started this book, I was like, who are you people? Because this is like the 5th book in a series, but it could be read as a standalone, but like also I didn't know who anyone was. I gave it 3.5 stars, I think. Only because the plot, great. The romance, great. Epic love story. But guys, I'm just not like a very smut loving person. And this book was very spicy. Like every chapter they were hooking up, and I was like, okay, I can appreciate a chapter, 2 chapters, 5 chapters even, but every chapter I need you guys to like have a deep conversation. I need you guys to like actually be in love. I don't really want to read about this anymore. Wrap it up. I get it, like you guys are attracted to each other. I don't know, but also it's mafia vibes, but also like low-key, like not really, like they don't really get into it that much. It's more about the romance. It's low-key giving stalker obsessed with the other one, like bad boy good boy kind of trope, but then the bad boy's like obsessed with him in a way that he like low-key stalks him. Kind of enjoyed that, to be honest, in a way I never thought I would. And I think if I would have read this entire series in order, I would have felt a lot differently, and I think I would have been a lot more attached. But because I wasn't really attached to the characters, I didn't know them, and I didn't know the setting, and I didn't know the other characters and like the plot line and stuff, and there was no like 5-book build-up for this couple to get together like it was for if you read the entire series. I think I like had a little bit less of an attachment to it, but I don't think it was bad. I just don't know if dark romance is specifically my thing. I just really don't like spicy books, like when the plot, not the plot, but like I don't like when like there's more smut than there is plot, or more smut than there is soft moments, you know? I was reading this on an airplane, and if you've read this book, imagine me, I'm literally like trying to read like this so nobody can see me. I'm like, oh my god, if anyone looks over my shoulder right now. Also, wait, whoa. One, right off the bat, I immediately, when I started reading it, I was gonna DNF, because the first chapter from Nikolai's point of view, the first chapter and sentences in this man's point of view disturbed me so greatly that I almost DNF'd it. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know, but he's talking, again, they're sexual chapters, but the way it was written felt very immature. I don't know, I don't want to say that sounds mean, but like immaturely cringy written, not even sex scenes, talking about himself. I can't even say it. You guys, if you know, you read it, I just thought it was so cringy. And he talks about himself sexually so much in such a cringy way. Like he named, anyway, I'm not even getting into all that. You know what I felt. Anyway, after that, I was like, okay, no. What are dark romances that I know and love? And that was the Dark First series. I loved the first 3 books of the Dark First series so much. In my Reading Dark Romance for a Week video, you guys saw how much I loved the first 2 books. Like, I was like, holy shit, these are perfect. I gave them 5 stars. And I never finished the series. So I got the last 2 books and I read them back to back. So quick and easy. I read them both in one sitting. First was The Finisher and then The Annihilator. I gave The Finisher 3 stars and The Annihilator 4. This one, it was marriage of convenience. Also like kind of had the amnesia trope in it. And kind of had like, I don't know how to explain it. I didn't love it that much. I gave it 3 stars just because like the whole plot of it was fun. It was exciting to read, but it didn't like hit the spot for me. But these series like follow the whole really dark theme of like they're trying to like bust this sex trafficking ring, but there's also like mafia aspects, but like they're kind of like good guys because they're trying to take down this bad mafia that's like doing the sex trafficking. And this one was like the main guy in the city. There's like a string of murders going on. He's trying to figure out what's going on. It has to do with the sex trafficking. This girl was in love with him. He couldn't remember her being in love with him. She asks him to marry her. He does. It's marriage of convenience. There's like way more to that. There's like a reason that they have to get married. I don't know. I didn't really believe the reason though. Like I was like, why did he say yes? I don't know. This one didn't really do it for me that much, but I loved this one. Who's shocked? This is a stalker romance and I loved it. Me loved a stalker romance. I hate those! Haunting Adeline, or Hunting, whatever the first one is, hated that. Okay, it's not stalker in the way that that one is though. He would never hurt a hair on her head ever. He wasn't stalking her in the way that he was like obsessed with her and like wanting to stalk her, but she was one of the girls who's stuck in the sex trafficking ring, and he was like looking out for her. So he would like follow her around and like make sure she was okay. Still weird, and this book was very dark, and I'm so surprised I liked it because of that. But it was dark in the way that like the themes were dark, but he wasn't mean to her. I just hate when the guy is mean. That's what I can't do. But he's like obsessed, and this was from the perspective of the Shadow Man, which is a guy who is talked about in all the other Darkverse books as like this, like nobody knows who this guy is. They don't know if he's bad, if he's good. He's been caught like murdering people, doing all this crazy shit. They don't know if he's on the side of the good guys or the side of the bad guys. And then this book was from his point of view, which was so cool. And then the way like this all wrapped up and tied together, and you found out so much, and like it tied to the other books in such a beautiful way. I love the characters in the found family in this book, and I'm pretty sure there's gonna be another book. It said it was gonna come out in 2022 and it never did. So I'm patiently waiting for it to actually come out, because this book kind of ended on a cliffhanger, like with no closure. And I think there's gonna be another book from all of their point of views, like every character so far, tying all the found family together, and I can't wait for that. But this is a dark romance series that I actually really enjoyed, so there's that. And then the last book that I just finished was our book club book over on Patreon for this month, for July, The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. But I did chapter by chapter updates on there, posted a video for every single chapter, so you guys can go watch that if you want to. We're having discussions on there in the comments, in the group chats, on the final video. I think I give this book 4 stars, 3.75. I liked it. I loved it actually. I just don't know. I like expected a little bit more. I think I was confused a lot of the time. I wanted more romance. I know that wasn't really the full point of the book. This is a time traveling dual timeline, but she's in both timelines because she's time traveling, falling in love with the same man in the past and the present. So cool to see, such a cool concept, such amazing quotes and beautifully written. So many highlights happened in this book. But overall, I think my feelings towards the book, I'm gonna give it 3.75 4 stars. I need to sit on it a little bit more. Such a good book to read for book club though, because I was confused a lot of the time with the time jumps and stuff and like how the time travel worked, and I would just post a video on the Patreon being like, guys, I'm so confused, somebody please explain it to me, and like 40 of you guys would immediately get on there and explain it to me, so then I could continue reading and understand what was going on. Thank you for that. But yeah, that was a book I just finished, and now I'm very excited to read Reckless next. I've been literally trying to fly through this because I can't stop thinking about Reckless because it just came out. But those are all the books I've read so far this year. I think there was 21 books just now. My goal of the year is 50, so I need to like speed up a little bit, but I'm also just not reading to meet a goal. Like I don't really care if I meet my goal or not. And I also have a lot coming up these next few weeks, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to read a lot, but I love books. I love talking about books. I miss talking about books. It is gonna be my favorite thing in the world forever, is talking about books and reading books. So if you want more videos like this, I really will do a TBR video. If you want to see that, I'll film that literally tomorrow. If I post this and you guys say, yeah, give it to me, I will do a full detailed TBR video and you guys can tell me what to read. Thank you so much for watching. This feels like the good old days. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you. If you want to join the book club, it's linked down below as always, as well as all my other social medias, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Bye.